We have a lot going on in the world, but I remember a sentence that it's like this internet philosophy where you hear it thrown around often, like it's this sentence. What is it like? Let me see if I recall it accurately. Difficult times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Something along these lines. So, implying this, and people, the immediate reaction I observed to this is that yeah, this is right. This is why we are. They immediately identify the times where they are living according to this scheme, this cyclical scheme. And I must recognize that we do have kind of a cyclical, our history is kind of cyclical, the events are kind of cyclical, but it is very narrow to only observe this trend, because while you have cycles, and cycles are also part of nature, this is perfectly normal. I think this kind of sentences puts a lot of emphasis on things that sometimes do not correspond to reality, right? Like, for example, this good times breed weak men. What the hell is this? And hard times breed strong men. I'm gonna give you a different analogy, because I really think this is bullshit philosophy, to be honest with you. Because according to, let's take it bit by bit, good times breed weak men. I don't see that. I see when corruption sets in, weak men assume power. That would be more accurate. But they don't breed weak men, they breed better societies overall. If you have more people educated, more people able to do more diverse things in society, more people educated to be civil within their communities, it doesn't breed weak men. It breeds wise men and sensitive people. It's kind of, if you narrow down to just, good times breed weak men, it's like there's a lot of abundance, so everyone just sits around and wastes the abundance and doesn't learn anything, right? It's what it does imply. And yeah, I think it's completely the opposite. I mean, it's societies, for example, if you observe, I'll give you, I think some of you might dislike this example, but because the Nordic countries are often given of examples of societies that this and that, normally for good reasons. So, for example, the Finnish society, they are a very young country. Finland is a very young country. The entity of the people was there before, but they were either ruled by one neighbor or the other. So they got their independence in 1919, if I am not mistaken. So, first quarter of the 20th century. And they were a very rural and sometimes nomadic society in some parts of Finland. Very few population, scarce population, that lived in the woods, lived in of the nature elements, shepherds and fishermen. And what the Finnish state, one of the first measures that the Finnish state, the independent state, has done is that it has given free meals at school So in order to change the culture, because these were wild people living in the wilderness, and they would, if you want to develop the country with educated and more sophisticated, to have a more sophisticated society, I'm not saying the other is bad per se, but that's not the point now. So one of the measures they made was giving free meals at schools. So it was a great incentive for the families to put their kids there. And there you have it. Within a generation, you had full generation of educated people. And then from that it starts multiplying. So this made made times getting better. And times after getting better, they did not get worse again. They kept getting better. Do you understand? So it's fake, this thinking that, of course, that a lot of people agree with this, because at first glance they think, yeah, if you are too lazy, if you never have challenges, if nothing challenges you in your life, you tend to get spoiled and you tend to not to deal with hardships very well, and so you are a weak man. Yeah, but it's, you don't have to have hard times and spend like, you don't have to be hungry or homeless or don't have any clothes, be cold in the winter. Those are the true hardships, right? To lack material things to the comfort of your life. You don't have to go through that. It's really this cheap shit philosophy that spreads like disease in the internet. It's good only for the people to conform to the corrupt society they live in. And so the other part of the sentence of the philosophy is also wrong, because hard times breed strong men. I'll give you a good example that I like to give in this case. Take an agriculture field. Take a field, and beside that field you have a plain field, good fertile soil, and beside that field you have another field, but this field is full of rocks, completely rocky. Which one do you think your crop will grow better? Right, this is a very easy question, right? Rhetorical question, by the way. So which one? Yeah, so of course it's the fertile soil. Everyone will answer this. But if you sow the seeds on the other field, on the rocky field, you will observe the following. You will see that certain seeds will develop, they will bloom, and they will develop into strong plants. Despite the hardships. So this field represents the society they live in. And then at the end I ask you, how many strong plants you have in one and on the other field? And I think this is the perfect analogy for this kind of thought. Because of course you can have, look, I have on my backyard, I have cement in some places. But the cement tends to crack, right? And on the cracks of that cement, I had beautiful plants sometimes growing. But would you say that so? Therefore, cement is a perfectly good place to plant seeds? Of course not. And so, of course, some people can be, you have examples, of course, and you know these examples of sportsmen and other people, even scientists that were grown in very poor societies, hardships, went through a lot of hardships, but they prevailed and they came strong anyways. Of course you always will have those examples. For me, those are the examples that only demonstrate that there is always hope in a society, because despite all the shit in many generations grown into that shit, there might be one seed in that rocky place that will develop and bloom a very strong plant. where you can then take more seeds from or whatever. But this cannot be the rule. You cannot just, oh, no, we're going through hardships, so we need hardships to make strong men. No. How about if you breed good times, you preserve the legacy of the good times, and don't repeat the mistakes of the past? How about that? I think that would be a better philosophy. Don't you think? Hey, let me know what you think about this in the comments, because I'm sure many of you, or at least all of you, have heard this sentence. This fucking cheap internet philosophy. And yeah, I wanted to talk a lot about a lot of other subjects. I mean, did you see the debate between Biden and Trump? Just by the way, I had an hilarious, I think it was hilarious, yes. A little bit sad, of course, but nevertheless hilarious. Because, I like to be informed about geopolitics and leaderships of the countries and styles of governments and the way several countries are governing and the way the so-called democracies and the so-called dictatorships. And then you have the United States, and that's the spectacle they present. That's the best they have to present to their people to choose. Trump and Biden. If you haven't seen it, I advise you. It's very entertaining. Of course, everyone is talking shit about Biden because he's a senile, the old man. It's not because he's old, it's because he's senile. His brain doesn't function well anymore and he shouldn't be there. I do agree with that. But don't forget that on the other side you have Trump. And for some people who think Trump is the savior, think again. Just listen to the guy talk. I mean, it's very poor. They are native English speakers. I think their English is worse than mine. But that's just me saying. You can think otherwise. I don't know. Very poor, very narrow vocabulary, very poor ideas, very short sentences, slogans, almost like advertising slogans. I gave you that. I made this. You are lying. I mean that's pretty poor arguments. Pretty lame. And of course it's the hilarious part is that when you see Biden just going off, speaking and just wandering off. You see in his eyes that his mind is wandering off. And then Trump there taking himself very seriously, saying a lot of shit, which I disagree completely with. I don't know. I mean, it's when you think the most powerful country in the world is, and that's what you have to offer there. How can you speak shit about Mr. Vladimir Putin? How can you? How dare you? Compare, please compare. Take your conclusions. Who would you trust? I point you to, if you can, watch this interview that Piers Morgan, which is a character that I dislike. But anyways, you gotta watch everyone, like a little bit of everything. Piers Morgan interviewed Galloway. And Galloway says it all. It gets to a point where he asks him if he trusts Vladimir Putin, and he says, I trust him more than Biden. And he says why, and he's right. Because Vladimir Putin is just being demonized, and that's the main reason you don't like him. Because people keep telling you shit about him, right? And I'm not saying he's a saint, but I'm saying that he's way more competent than any of these two guys that were debating there. So I don't know, this doesn't were these the weak men bred by the good times? I don't know. Was Putin the strong man, bred by the hard times? Maybe. Okay, guys. I hope I see you on the next one.